introduce myself?
Please do.
My name is Mark Peterson. I am an audiovisual consultant, a pure consultant from a firm called Shen Milsom Wike. And you may know Fred Shen, because Fred Shen is from China. And if you look out at Hong Kong at the landscape and the buildings there, a lot of the buildings had acoustical issues that Fred was helped to resolve and set our firm on the course it is now. We are a multidisciplinary firm. We do audiovisual, acoustics, IT, security, and something called medical equipment planning. And I'm looking forward to being here on the panel today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, I'd like to bring Bruce Manning from Ceraml, soon to be Trinity Consulting. And Bruce is an associate principal with the company. And Bruce, if you would kindly say a few words about yourself.
Been doing this a long time. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised. Started off on the integration side, and then went over to the dark side, I guess you could say. And it's been a wild ride for the past 35 years, touching everything from corporate, which is what we're here to, every vertical market, and still going strong. Similar to Mark and SM&W, Shen Milsom Wike, we're multidiscipline, acoustics, audiovisual, information technologies, and security. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And for our third panelist, I'd like to bring Alex Mayo. Alexander Mayo is with Arup, A-R-U-P, headquartered in New York City.
Hi everyone. Yes, Alex Mayo. I work at Arup. Many of you may know Arup. We're a global collective of designers, engineers, architects. We span the globe, over 18,000 employees across the world. And I particularly work in our audiovisual, acoustics, theater, and experience design group. So it's very good to be here because really we've seen the proliferation of LED, and as we all know, working with our clients, which tend to be end users, architects. There's two goals that I see so much, and one, as we've been talking about, is really that they don't necessarily always know what they don't know, or they don't know exactly what they want. So our job is to help turn an early concept, an early sketch into something of reality, and also, to do it sustainably and efficiently. So sustainable development is really always our goal, and yeah, look forward to talking with you all.
Thank you, Alex. And last but not least, Mr. Adrian Lim. Adrian is a managing director of IHD, headquartered here in Hong Kong. And Adrian joins the consultant team and will provide us an international perspective. Adrian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adrian. I work for a company called IHD, which stands for Ian Harris Limited. Some of the people might know our founder, Ian Harris, but unfortunately he has passed away last year. But IHD has an APAC presence, headquartered in Hong Kong, a few offices in China, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and India. We provide audiovisual, acoustic, IT, IoT, security systems consultancy, and we also a pure consultancy company. And for myself, I've been in the AV industry since 1988. Started as a freelance, started as a volunteer in the church doing sound systems, and moving on to working in a company that's very closely related to electrosonic in UK, based in Singapore. And after that, I moved on to Hong Kong and worked with integration company before I joined the consultancy firm IHD, and I've been in IHD for the last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. So the agenda for this panel discussion will be, I'll be asking 6 questions. And then, not only of the consultants here on the stage, but I'll be asking a question of you all. So just to know the audience makeup, by a show of hands, who here is a systems integrator? Thank you. Who here is a reseller, distributor? Thank you. Who have I missed? Who is an end user? Okay.
No end users.
Absent for people.
Absent. So we have now a understanding of how we should respond to these following questions. So question number 1, why would end users upgrade their office space with AV and IT technology? That's the question, and so I'll propose several discussions. One might be brand messaging, brand identification. Another might be communication, efficiency. A third might be just welcome everyone who's coming back to the office. So to that question, let me start with you, Mark.
All right. Hi, everybody. So we hear the word quality a lot, right? And it reminded me there are 4 factors to technology adoption. RHIP. Risk, habit, identity, and power. Have you guys heard of that before? So when you're making a technology decision, the first, well, they may not be in order, but there are 4 factors. Is there a risk involved? Is it a perceived or an actual risk? And if I'm going to upgrade a display, is it going to cause some sort of problem? Security, network, data, issues like that. The next is habit. So is it familiar to me? Am I comfortable using this type of technology? Am I going to go out of my comfort zone in order to be able to make a change? Identity. Do I identify with the technology and the product that I'm using or wanting to use, right? Is it make me feel the way I want to feel inside? And I think a lot of that comes into the decision factor. And then with this word power. And with the word power, we're talking about empowerment. So are my staff empowered? Is a leader feel that they're giving power to the group, or are they having or maintaining power? These are all factors that go into these decisions, because many times when you're spending the amount of money it costs to make this technology improvement or upgrade, you step back from the cost factors and think about the human side of it in your decision-making process. And this leads to this concept around which product, right? Do I choose one brand or another brand? And we throw around aspect ratio, we throw down pitch, right? But at the end of the day, the question is this something I'm going to be willing to take the chance on? Is it going to make me feel good and better about what I'm doing? And in the role of the consultant, we need to kind of blend both of these. This human that's sitting there who may not know the technology, with the performance aspects of the actual technology, and find that blend in that mix that matches the two. I'm not sure if I answered that question, but I kind of wanted to start out with that format.
So gentlemen, do you agree with what Mark just said?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with what Mark said. And I think another word that comes to mind, we talked a lot about it today, is really brand. And even looking at all the brands, there, and Absen itself, obviously, working at being a display, LED display technology brand. Every one of our clients, and when I say client, I really mean the end users, so even beyond the architects, but the architects themselves too, they each have a brand. And I think our job as consultants, which by the way, we each have a brand, but our job as consultants is to really understand that brand and make sure that in everything that we are proposing, every solution, every design, it in some way is communicating that brand outward, and also most importantly is aligning with that brand. So to your point of the question of why do they upgrade, at some point it's because they need technology to help communicate whatever their brand values are, and in a number of different ways, whether it's internally or externally.
And Alex, let me flip the question around. So what are the prime considerations or pain points for the end user, and how do you overcome those? Alex, please.
Oh, yeah, sure. In terms of, I think, especially seeing the number of hands that went up as system integrators, we as consultants maybe have some amount of privilege in that after the warranty starts, it becomes your problem. But that said, obviously, that's the maybe reality, but the real reality when we're in the design process is that the biggest pain point is that it has to work, You know, I mean, the thing that we all know, whether it's, again, across any company, but in life, is that time is the most important resource. And to me, the biggest pain point I've ever seen with any client is that whatever solution we've given them, it does not respect their time, you know, and that would be something that we always are looking to overcome. So that may be time in setting up a room for a meeting. It may be time in installing a product to make sure that the space can open on time. But I would say every single pain point can probably boil down to time.
Adrian, comment on that pain point question.
Yeah, I think the pain point issues we see a lot here in the impact region is a lot of the time the client actually do not understand what is their problem, what do they actually need within their corporates, within their offices, and who do they go for to look for a solution provider to do a design for them. We try to spend a lot of time doing discussion, research with the client on how do you use your system, what do you want to use on your system. Is there specific culture, especially over in China, the big boss normally always make a decision of what they are going to use in the corporate. And when the big boss says something, everybody has to use that design. But this is actually very wrong. So we try to spend more time to educate the client, especially if we can talk to the end user. We try to dig into the end user to find what they really want and understand what they want before we even do any design. Then from there on, we will try to choose the appropriate technology. If the end user or the client they gone for a SI build, then they have to be. I know there's a lot of SI here. Unfortunately, sometimes the SI will not necessarily give them the best solution because the end user end up buying the wrong thing. And I have many cases that comes to me and tell us, hey, come and look at our systems. It doesn't seem to fit our requirement. We have spent so much money, but we cannot use the system. It is not friendly. It is not meeting our corporate demand. It is not doing what we want to do. And there are many cases like this. So we try very hard to make sure that the client are getting what they want. And we try to design and make sure that when they get it, they are well trained. One thing about this is training. A lot of system after it is designed, the warranty goes to the manufacturer or the SI. The user normally, sometimes they have trouble operating the system. Then to design a system so that it is easy for the end users, operators to use, that is also a big challenge that we always see, and we try to solve that problem by creating user scenarios so that we teach them, we train them, and create this change management process for them so that the client get the best of everything they have.
So thank you, Adrian. And I see by all of your body language, you were shaking your head in agreement with what Adrian was saying. So I think that we have consensus from your perspective. But understanding that there are regional differences, global differences, different levels of stakeholders, CEOs, and down to the operating level. So what would you say are the most important components of any system? For example, might it be intelligent diagnostic systems? Or might it be predictive maintenance to know when in advance of failure you might experience a failure in the future? Or hot swappable and redundant components like we often do today. Or the idea of having spares on a shelf, or the idea of having 100% uptime, never a failure, 99.999% reliability. So those are some of the ideas that I have. What is your perspective on what are the components of reliability and stability and longevity? Please.
Well, there's different levels to that. Understanding your clients, it's typically not one person, it's a group of people from the CEO down to the people who are actually maintaining the product. For the masses, it's a TV on a wall. It's got to look good. It's got to react the way it's supposed to. The people who are operating it and running it and maintaining it need to have a sense of comfort in the fact that it's going to perform 100% every time, every day of the year. That rolls into the hot swappable power supplies, downtime, spares, batching of the LED components, looking toward where the failures are going to be in the software and the hardware. All of that wrapped into the idea that it's going to perform 100% all of the time.
But not only the product, you're speaking about the entire integrated
The whole
system.
ecosystem. The whole ecosystem. This is only one part of it. The display is only one part of it. You know, you've got the audio system, you've got the control system, and you've got the maintenance. You know, the backnet and if it's connected to the network.
And Adrian, I do know that you had some perspective on predictive maintenance or intelligent diagnostics. Please share.
Yes, we are seeing this demand there that when you ask the question there, I mean the thing I think everybody wants is stability. But in terms of how we achieve stability, of course the products needs to be good. However, we have been using a lot of very good products and very bad products both in our design and installations. We specify all the big brands around. There are always failure. There's always a firmware that needs to be upgraded. There's always a heating issue. There's always a back connection issues. And I always tell our contractors that don't spend money on the connectors. Okay, a lot of the time it is just because of back connection. But saying that, predictive diagnostic of systems is getting very important right now. In China, I'm doing quite a few projects for big corporations. They are not talking about 20 meeting rooms. They are talking about 200 meeting rooms. I did projects for a company called Huawei. They have thousands of meeting rooms, and a failure in the systems to them is not acceptable. So we did talk to them, and we are starting to put in this control management system so that any single failure that goes into the systems, the technician already knows way before. And I also work for a company called TikTok. They have, again, thousands of meeting rooms deployed around the world.
What's the name of this company?
ByteDance.
Oh yeah, I know that.
ByteDance. Okay, they have thousands of meeting rooms around, and they have a very powerful platform. They actually monitor everything, and they can detect a single drop of a HDMI cable from a camera, and straight away somebody will have to attend to it to make sure that something is taken care of. They also, I don't know that the system also do self-diagnostic, self-check once a week to check that the audio is working, the video is working, and there's some sort of algorithm they put in to make sure to self-test their meeting rooms in the offices all around the world.
So I would understand that in order in which to integrate all these various technologies, that there needs to be a data communication protocol, an interchange of information that someone can analyze, and then turn that data into intelligence. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Mark, please, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to step back a little bit higher level here to understand, why. First of all, if it's a special room versus a base room, you may find base rooms. You can't find another special room, so therefore that room cannot fail. Does that make sense, right? And if we had a couple of people when I was asking, what do you want to hear about? They talk about where's the future of the workplace going, right? And the big gorilla here is the economy, right? And we are just in a mode of turmoil where no one knows exactly Does anyone have the crystal ball what the future? No, right? You don't know what exactly the office is going to look like. However, in the United States, we've obviously seen a lot of companies reduce the amount of workspace that they have, right? We also see an aging of the workforce. Even in Hong Kong, you saw a lot of people leaving and then maybe coming back. Maybe some office spaces are open, maybe not open. So the decision to buy and invest in the technology and invest in remote diagnostics has to do with a couple of those factors. First of all, my technical staff, I want to keep as few as possible, and I want to maximize their capability without them having to go to each location. The more they can get done, the more efficient they will be. Motto for any organization to be, right? So you have both the pre-quality requirements and the reliability requirements. And to reiterate, I think what you were saying is that the decision factors of the very best and brightest is so competitive. Wait a day, wait a week, and there'll be another advancement. And clients are getting inundated with this, another version, another brighter. And what they're seeing is, okay, that may be bright enough, that may be good enough, or in the corporate industry, you may have that at one level. You still have broadcast or higher production where it must be the very best. Or your identity of your company is associated with the very best. That may also be a factor. So in that environment, we are looking to specify products not only on the technology, but on the value-added capabilities. And that's all the ones you listed. So I'd say yes to every one of them. I want swappable power, reliable power, anything you can give me that is an advantage on the products that run parallel to the actual display technology that we heard all about. I thought that chip on board stuff's fantastic. Super bright, right? It needs to be really bright. We're gonna see, hey, you've got an awesome bright display, and you need the reliability, and you need the diagnostics to follow.
And it's presenting my brand properly. Color correction. If I own a company that has a specific color that needs to be reproduced time and time again, I'm going to invest in that. If it doesn't do that, then there's no value to it to me. You've got the Coca-Cola Reds, you've got the Heineken Greens, you've got the Absen Orange. If it doesn't come across as that color, it's no use to them. So that starts at the top, the guy who's paying for it. And then down the line, everything else falls into place. And it has to be there because they're spending a lot of money on this.
Thank you, Bruce. So, question for you, Alex. And I think you mentioned earlier that how do you, as a consultant, design and specify a system solution when your own client has no idea what the problem is? They just know this is what they want, but they don't know how to go about to achieve it. So, several examples. One might be Mercedes-Benz, car company, wants to be able to see behind the display, through the display, and see the car, but yet have messaging, information, data in front of the car, and not have a sign block the view of the automobile, such as in a trade show booth or in their showrooms, anywhere. So that's just but one example, and there are hundreds of examples where a client may not be able to describe the solution, I want X, Y, Z, but they have described their problem. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And this is, not to make this too much of a commercial for, I guess, why consultants maybe exist, but to more so educate. One of the benefits that we do have, and it goes back to time, and it's time in the process of a project, right? So the best case scenario for any project is that we as the AV consultants are coming on while the rest of the design team is still in the concept design. Nothing at this point has been set. There are very few parameters. Sky's the limit. So to answer your question, what our first, well, in fact, to answer your question with the question, I start with questions. We ask so many questions, because you're right that someone may go too far and say, oh, I want to see behind the display, but that's a solution maybe. So even more, it's like, well, why do you want this? Oh, you want a dynamic ability for customers to interact with your model that also allows you to change the signage and the information that you present. That's if I ask enough questions, I can get to the heart of what they're actually looking for. So really, the most important thing here is the needs analysis phase, and it's the needs of, to your point, they never come in the exact bullet point that end up in the specification that we have to write or the drawing that we have to do. They're really, they're ephemeral. They're dreams almost of how do you want to feel when you walk into this room. And the magic happens in turning that into something that I can then specify, that then the integrators in the room here can then install, and that's where we rely on the two-way street here, because we need the workmanship of, can this actually be built, but can we actually dream it, is kind of the first part there. So it comes in, I think the answer to your question is a deep imagination, the ability to listen, and the ability to question are really our superpowers.
And I would imagine the art of possible. What is possible in the future, not necessarily just today.
And this is why it's important for us to come to things like this. We know that the real innovation that's happening, in buildings B and throughout the factory here is that we're trying to get that die down to 20 microns in size. If I saw it sub 100 microns, but to really truly get to micro LED, what happens when this die is the size of a bacteria? Now what can I embed that die into? What happens when the driver is on each pixel? So now we can in fact turn them on and off. Now that is going to, that's all technical specs, but for me what I see is that I have customers' dreams that we can now realize with that technology. So that's really
Alex, I want to challenge that a little bit, because the question was, who's your client? Right?
Sure.
And there are many times that we're working in projects not with the client, but with the architect. And what I am seeing is display technology is becoming treated as a building material. It is as important as the 2x4s and drywall. It's planned out way in advance. The client has no idea what that content's going to be yet. And the architect is trying to shape a vision of the space. And we need to think of display technology as ubiquitous as the wall surface. It needs to look as tightly integrated as all of the wall corners and shapes that we see every day. I just wanted to point that out. At least that's my point.
Now, it's a great point. Any other comments? Nope. All right, so then what information or tools do you all need to make your jobs more efficient, more effective, easier?
I'll just continue on. I think it's important to note that, so to your point of working with the architect, the industry that we're really in, it's funny because I feel like as consultants, we're halfway in what we all kind of consider the pro AV industry. Obviously, the trade events, this event right here.
Excuse me.
But where we're really in is, overall, it's the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. So the tools that we have to use to communicate with our clients, we're in the 3D space where we're in, building information modeling systems using whether it's Revit, things of that matter. So in that world, where we are in the virtual world, I think that's where most of the tools we can, that we can do, because we have to be able to understand exactly, the exact dimensions of a device and how it is going to integrate into that wall when we're still designing that wall. We're going to need to understand where the conduit needs to come into that device so that we can, tightly get it back to the world in reality. And if we're really, I saw something there about, I think it was Dr. Deng mentioned, but it's, having that digital twin, the ability to actually build this building virtually before we ever, get a crane or a bulldozer or an excavator on site. These are the tools that we have to use every day.
And where do you get this information today? Is it data sheets, trade shows, lunch and learns,
So to be honest, a lot of it we build it ourselves, but also we rely on our manufacturing partners to provide us the information that we can place into there, and when it works great, you know, we have the information directly from you know, the design team that's building it, but it's not always as simple that way, I'm sure.
I think for us here is there are always a lot of during the design phase of the project, there's a lot of people we need to answer to. There will be the client, there will be the architect, the interior designer. The interior designer will be asking you things that is related to how this thing look, how that things look. Client will be asking you, how does that sound? How does the video looks like? I mean, some of these people that from the clients that you meet, they just have no idea what technology is, you know. And over and over again, we try to explain things. I mean, we do a lot of hotels projects. I mean, in hotels we have ballrooms, meeting rooms, we have guest room, and every new project we go to, there'll be somebody new in the client side that has no idea what audiovisual is. They'll be still asking us about which projector should I be using when we are moving on to LED technology. They'll be asking us what are the speakers that we want to use. So what we recently do is we started to use some visualization tools. Instead of just using Revit or some of these interior designers rendering tools, we started to play with a software called Epic Game, which is one of those gaming software that runs on Unreal Engine. If you guys know anything about Unreal Engine or Unity, we are trying to build 3D models to show to our client that, hey, this is actually a meeting space. We can actually, from the interior designer's specification, we actually build a whole hotel's room for the owners, and we have all the control systems inside there, and we can actually program and tell the client what does a control panel do to your AV, to your lighting, to your drapes. And this is starting to, some of the clients they have seen this, they are saying, hey, this is actually very interesting, because most of these people in the past, unfortunately, the last 20 years, all they have is either the interior designers rendering drawings or AutoCAD. Even for things like Revit and things like this, it is really restricted to the people who, we have this BIM consultant. Only the BIM consultant actually understand the drawing. Most people in the project has not even understand what BIM is. So this is one interesting tool that we find that is actually helping us to give a better visualization to the client, and to a certain extent we are providing them with interaction to our system that we are trying to propose to them.
Thank you. And so now let's take a look and a perspective on the future. Some of the future trends, and this morning we heard a lot about AI. So how will augmented reality and artificial intelligence impact this thinking? What about the idea of putting a sensor, and note I didn't say a video camera, but a sensor of some kind that would be embedded in the screen? Be invisible, so it's not an appendage, but it's as small as a pixel. What could that AI or augmented reality technology do? Did anybody here watch the Super Bowl? Let me see a show of hands. Anybody? Super Bowl? Yes? There was a particular commercial from Meta, Facebook. And in that commercial, it was about the Ray-Ban smart glasses. And the actor taps his eyeglasses and he says, hey, Meta, and Meta has artificial intelligence that responds to his question. 25 years ago, there was a movie in which Tom Cruise, the actor, was in a show called, I'll think of it, Minority Report. Anyone see that movie by chance? Well, here's a clip. Please play the Minority Report clip. Tom Cruise. Biometric identification.
Welcome back to the Gap. How does
Interactive with the screen
for you?
and communicating what that screen thought that individual was and what their likes and desires and needs were, and then directs them in a retail environment to his particular product. 25 years ago. today Meta communicating their AI technology. So the question to the audience here is, where do you think the future can go? What are some of the opportunities? Bruce, do you want to take that?
All right. You want me to start? Okay. I had a conversation a little bit with people over here. The first thing that you're seeing right now is measurement. We're in a state of flux. We don't know what's going to go on. We got to measure. It's like if you want to lose weight or gain weight, you need to start measuring what you're taking in and what you're taking out. If you look at the technologies that are on the market right now, Zoom went from doing very intelligent cameras now to do Zoom Place with AI. If you look at Microsoft Teams, they have Places. Cisco has Spaces. Everybody is moving from the very intelligent room to a very intelligent office space and workspace. And to do that, they need those sensors and the ability to measure and understand if people are in the room, they can count people. If they're using the Wi-Fi, they can tell how many people are in the building, and ultimately they can make some decisions about where and how many people and how big the office space is going to be. All right, great. Most of that makes sense, except when you ask yourself, what question am I trying to answer? If I am the CEO, or I've got a real estate, I have to pay a bill for this office space, in this meeting space, what information what do I want to answer? I want to answer, is my staff successful? Are they productive? Can I attract more employees? Can I keep my employees from leaving? Am I providing energy in an environment that is going to foster innovation, right? These are things that the chief wants to know. The sensor may not answer that. So you do need to think about what questions need to be answered, okay? And you're seeing AI being applied today in very rudimentary ways.
Right.
Or I call them rudimentary. So meeting notes, right? Taking meeting notes. Or machine learning, where it's automatic camera preset recall to track an individual in a room to reduce the labor requirements. Okay, those are all great. And in theory, what's going to happen is those spaces will be right-sized and you'll be more productive because you'll have your minutes. I'm going to go a further step. My coworker that I spend the most time with doesn't have a heartbeat. My coworker is on my computer. My coworker makes me look really good. We talked about identity, habit. I can go and reach out and ask my coworker any question, even the most difficult question, and I'm going to get a response in less than a minute, and I'm going to look really good. Smart, intelligent, accurate. Now, I've got to look at that information and be prompting properly. I've got to be able to look at the response and be able to analyze and make sure it's truth and accurate and make it my own, okay? But it's an engine. It's like I'm sitting next to a photocopier, right? I got a photocopier right next to me at my desk. What happens when I go into a meeting room? Do I have my photocopier, my intelligence with me? I want to bring my intelligence with me. The one reason why we haven't gotten there, one main reason, is the phone and the consumerization of this technology is yet to catch up because it's happening so quickly. But as soon as you are able to work efficiently, effectively, habitually in your life, you're going to want to have that same technology with you at your fingertips in a meeting. So suppose we were just talking about going to Hong Kong for a trip for the day, and I do a search and I find out this is a great itinerary. I want to do all these things. I did that at my desk with my coworker who doesn't have a heartbeat. And I go over to Alex. I said, Alex, this looks like an awesome trip. And Alex says, wait a minute. I got my itinerary and I figured out what I wanted. Now we're in a meeting room. Now we can iterate. We can collaborate. This is the future, I believe. So we need to think not only about how that display shows content, but how the display ties into that new environment. It's going to be like the refrigerator in the residential market that has this central point of information. The sensors are going to be built in here that will tell me the air is good. The sensor is going to tell me to cool the place off or to turn or dim the lights. The sensor is going to give me identity of my space and my place and my individuals. it's going to be extremely important in the entire ecosystem going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that where this applies to the AV industry, because if we're being honest, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, none of these things came from our industry, but we must be aware of them, is that our industry is the ability to provide the input into this and display the output. And I think that's where we have to be extremely focused, because, for instance, that walking into a meeting room, you're right, there's a microphone, there's a computer, there's a display in every single meeting room that we use for video conferencing. So if I happen to be stumbling to remember a fact that is easy to Google or look up, why does the microphone not realize that he's asking a question, he doesn't know the answer, I can look it up in the background and place it on the display? So to that point, we still need to be thinking about how our systems work in. Now, in order for that to happen as well, we have to also make sure that our network systems, we've talked about AV over IP, is pretty much at this point nearly 100%, I'm sure, of most of your projects are AV over IP. Are we still making sure that we're doing that with converged networks? Are we still dealing with security? So the other parts of what we've been talking about, privacy is a huge issue. I mean, the other reason, I'm sure this depends market by market, but if you walk into a building and they're videotaping interviews, they have to tell you at release that you may be on video. I don't know if everyone has caught up with the comfort of knowing that everything that they're saying in real time is being analyzed, by systems. But if you can show value for that, and if you can also show that this system is private enough that people feel good about it, then I think then the benefits will outweigh some of those costs that we have. But it's certainly, the even bigger macro point of this is that sci-fi has been dreaming up this reality that we live in right now for years. The Blade Runner, everything, you go all the way back, right? And now here we are in a room with, just walls that have displays on them, and it's, almost nothing. This is the types of things that people were dreaming of when you were running RGB HV, right? So here we are now, but you're right, I do think that the future is plenty of these opportunities, and it's going to exist in the software realm, it's going to exist in the virtual realm, and we've just got to make sure that we can integrate a system that gives the best quality inputs to that, the most intelligible inputs, and can show the best results from it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think that the audience now has been listening to the conversation and dialogue from these consultants, and you have formed your own opinions. So to which I want to extract some of your opinions from you by asking you the following questions. And do we have a microphone for the audience, please? You do. There. The gentleman has a microphone, and so anyone who wishes to respond, please do so. So I'm going to focus on three categories: the ecosystem, compatibility, and integration. So ecosystem. How does the AV ecosystem develop? From your perspective, what is the role of dvLED solutions in it? Anyone? Take a stab, an opinion, comment. All right, I'll make it more complicated. Compatibility and integration. How can dvLED be integrated into AV control systems such as Crestron, Extron, anybody's Tron idea, and including audio and lighting and more to provide a seamless user experience? Come on, integrators, you have an opinion on this, I know it. You guys are shy. Okay, I'm going to allow, if you don't want to answer, I'm going to allow the consultants, please, to provide their perspective.
I'll take that one. When you walk into a space, what's the first thing that you see? You'll see a display. You're going to see, it's a visual experience. Audio is very important. It's very important to us. But the first thing that everyday person is going to look at is the display. You walk in anywhere and you're gonna, in an arena, in a stadium, in a meeting room, anywhere you go, it's a visual world, all right? So it's a large component to an even larger ecosystem, what you're describing. But it's the number one, to me, it's the number one component in a system that an everyday layman's going to notice first. All right, and then it really comes down to the best product for the application, right? You can, in a corporate environment, and that's what we're here for, in a boardroom, in a multi-purpose space, in a town hall, to portray what's going to be said and what's going to be seen. It's the first line of offense, not defense. In reality, this is what everybody looks at first. Sound, again, is very important, but an everyday layman is going to look at the visuals first.
All right, so I'm going to jump in here and rapid fire here, guys.
Yeah,
okay.
go for it.
So pre-pandemic content, right? Now, post-pandemic, guaranteed one person's not going to be in that room.
Yep.
Every single space that we design today has to have a remote capability version, right? Great, I gotta put cameras in there, I gotta get audio going, and there isn't a room that I can use. Now, architects, they want to see nothing. They want it hide in plain sight. The biggest challenge we have with direct view LED, large screen, how do you hide it? Very, very frustrating. We spend more time trying to creatively solve the physical problem of making something disappear that can't bend. And what's the answer? Oh, turn on content all the time? No. Humans want to be in spaces. Reluctantly, they have to have that technology. If they could have no technology, we're beating now because we want to be human. We've talked all the time about being video, and now finally we're here. We planned this trip to be here now. It's all over video, but we're here now. We want to be human. So, and architects want all that space to be looking much more like a living room or a space that doesn't have tech blowing up, because we get blown up with technology all the time. So, to the Absen team, very important. You got a great product, you got to hide it. Hide it until the moment it's needed, and then make it disappear again. Now, that sounds like a tough thing. It's happening. It's happening today.
Yeah, talk a little bit what you saw.
Well, you're seeing technology where it's like e-screen, where when the screen is off, it has an image. And then when you turn it on, it is a display. This is really, really important, because a company that makes a great display wants to show that great display all the time, but the architect doesn't want to see it all the time, nor does the user want to see it all the time. So the creative process of making it disappear in plain sight gives you a competitive advantage if you can be creative there. The hinging, right? The opening and the closing of it. Sorry, I just wanted to rapid fire there.
No, I mean, I just absolutely right, and was going to say that's the main reason why we still see projection as a solution, because the thing that it can do is hide away. So yeah, we challenge it all, but seeing a screen that can roll up into a plenum space and look as good as this when it's down would, I mean, it would sell a million units, because that's what everyone wants.
Yeah, like staging and rental. You could take it apart. Take the innovations in staging and rental and apply it to the corporate spaces.
How do you use transparency to be transparent? It's a big question that companies like Absen are trying to solve. You have your transparent LED. When it's off, you want to see the beautiful outside. When it's on, you want to see a picture that is, I would go beyond, say, good enough. Nobody wants good enough. People who want good enough are cutting corners, and it's economically viable, yes, but you still want to have a beautiful image, and it goes back to the humans.
50 seconds remaining. Gentlemen, ladies, do you have any questions of this panel? Please. Microphone. Thank you.
I think we as an integrator, we face a problem with a lot of products, a lot of technology, a lot of brands, and we have to go to the consultants and we show them the new technologies from every brand, from every specific item. how do you see this this problem can be solved? Because that means that we need to hire hundreds.
Sure,
And-
okay, yeah, got it. Good, better, best. Not what quality says in the industry, but to the project, to the client. Best may not necessarily be the most expensive or the brightest. The best solution for the problem. So good, better, best, and then your recommendation. Don't leave it to 3 choices and pick one. Put your skin into the one you think and why. So good, better, best, and why you justify each one of those. And remember, with men, if you give them 3 choices, they'll go to the heart. They won't go to the head. Okay? They'll all of a sudden get really emotional and then make a decision. So find 2, bring it to 2 if you're dealing with a man. And they'll make a choice or the other. You do it 3, they're gonna go with their heart. And then you go, what the hell are they going? I'm sorry, it's an important factor that we consider. So good, better, best, and put your recommendation in there and explain why. And then you'll be off to the races, in my opinion.
I think this question applies to consultant as well. In other part of the world, you are dealing with maybe some of the bigger brands. But over here in China, we have to deal with a lot of up-and-coming Chinese brands. Some of the new protocol that's even coming onto the market that is not what is commonly seen out there. But what I would suggest is, I work with a lot of integrators. I started as an integrator myself, but try to focus on at least getting the fundamental right and move on to the technology later. The biggest problem I see in the integration market is that a lot of integrator doesn't seem to know about sound. They can't even tune a proper sound. I mean,
Or network.
yeah, and if your engineers can sort out sound, that is already, I mean, you already win a big part of the battle. Then of course the next thing is that you need to be able to understand what is good color and bad color, how you define what is good image and bad image, and move on to the control that actually seems to that is more humane, you know, that somebody can actually use it easily before you move on to the technology. We face the same problem because we are always asked to compare what is the difference between Astron and QSC and Crestron. What is the difference between the JBL and the QSC? It's because what is the difference between this and that? We cannot have all these answers together, but the next thing is just that we just have to make sure that we have good enough relationships and connections with the manufacturers and just keep learning, but get the fundamentals right.
Yeah, and I think the end of that is that, you know, it's similar to if you're designing your own home or doing a renovation project. At a certain point, you know, I think that we all do our best work once we have, you know, the best design happens within constraints. And the best end result is a result where you no longer have the regrets for what you could have had. So I think that to your point of how many different I mean, this is an industry problem, right? So to the point of having too many different manufacturers and knowing which is the best, I don't know if we have a solution. I mean, if you had a solution, I would love to hear it because it would save me a lot of time of lunch and learns. But the reason I bring that up is that the best solutions are that afterwards, it's just like when you get a new car. Like you want that car that you drive it off the lot and still years later, you still look back every time you park and you say, yeah, I made the right choice. When you get the car where you see somebody else driving something else and you say, dang, I should have got that one, then you don't really feel too great about it. So I think the best thing is just to focus on giving that solution that is the best solution, does give the people confidence that they have the best solution, and then suddenly it doesn't matter so much about the other brands too much. But
Yeah, we don't work in silos, right? We all have teams that work with us. There's an old saying that I really love to use. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? With 1,000 different manufacturers out there creating the same product or a similar product, how do we disseminate which is the best or which is good enough or which is even better? I rely on other people to feed me information on that to make the best choices possible on a given environment, right? It may not be the like Mark said, it may not be the best solution, but it may be the best for that particular problem. to solve.
Gentlemen, thank you. I want to say just three things. Summary is Adrian talked a lot about predictive maintenance, the ability to analyze data and turn it into intelligence. Alex spoke about interviewing his clientele to the nth degree, to really get to the root of the need. Not the solution, but the need. Bruce spoke about his ability to define the application to the solution, to the customer's need at all varying levels. And Bruce, I think you talked about the entire ecosystem of predictive maintenance and reliability and stability, and with a future perspective of AI. I think I've captured the essence of what you gentlemen have foresaid. I want to thank the audience and thank the panel for their participation. Let's give them a round of applause.
And we're happy.
Thank you.
If anyone has any questions or any questions that you may have, we're going to hopefully see you.
Yeah, we're going to be around,
time.
so
Please come up. I mean, the point of this conversation is to open the dialogue, and hopefully we've brought some things to you. Thank you, Jerry.
Of course.
To bringing these conversations up, and please feel comfortable coming up and saying hi, because we're here to see you and learn about you as well. Thank you.
yeah, and I'm sure some of your system integrators are on the design side too. So we are curious to hear from you as well.
Yeah, would love to hear what we as consultants can do. I'm sure you all have strong opinions about us.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
We'll wait till the
All
beer
right,
comes
thank
out
you
for that.
everyone.